David, the youngest son of Jesse, spends his days tending sheep in Bethlehem. He plays the harp and grows strong in faith while protecting his flock from lions and bears. God tells prophet Samuel to anoint a new king from Jesse's sons. Samuel arrives in Bethlehem and meets David's older brothers, but God rejects them. Samuel anoints young David in secret, and the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. His destiny is set, though few recognize it yet. King Saul is plagued by an evil spirit. His servants recommend David, known for his harp playing. David is summoned to the palace, and his music soothes Saul's troubled mind. The Philistine giant, Goliath, taunts Israel's army for 40 days. Saul and his men are terrified, unwilling to face him. David brings food to his brothers in the army and hears Goliath's insults. He is outraged that no one stands up for God's people. Despite his youth, David declares he will fight Goliath, citing his past victories over wild beasts. Saul reluctantly agrees. Rejecting armor, David takes his sling and 5 stones. He runs toward Goliath and slings a stone into his forehead, killing him. David cuts off Goliath's head and Israel routs the Philistines. Saul is both amazed and suspicious of the young hero. The people celebrate David, and women sing, "Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000s." Saul grows jealous and uneasy. Saul's rage festers. During one of David's harp performances, Saul hurls a spear at him. David escapes. Saul offers his daughter Michal to David as a trap. David wins her hand by bringing back 200 Philistine foreskins. Saul orders David's death. Michal helps him escape by lowering him from a window and deceiving the guards. Saul's son Jonathan forms a deep bond with David, recognizing his destiny. They make a covenant of loyalty. David seeks refuge with Samuel in Ramah. Saul's men pursue him, but they are overcome by the Spirit of God and begin prophesying. David secretly meets Jonathan, who confirms Saul's intent to kill him. They weep and part ways. David visits the priest Ahimelech, who unknowingly aids him. David eats the consecrated bread and takes Goliath's sword. David flees to Gath but is recognized. He pretends to be insane, drooling and scribbling on doors, so the Philistine king lets him go. David gathers a band of outcasts, becoming a leader of 400 men. Saul, enraged that Ahimelech helped David, orders the massacre of the priests at Nob. David and his men rescue the town of Keilah from Philistine raiders. Saul comes after David, but he narrowly escapes by leaving Keilah in time. David hides in the wilderness of Ziph. The Ziphites betray him to Saul, but David evades capture. David finds Saul asleep in a cave but refuses to kill him, cutting off a piece of his robe instead. David reveals himself and proves his loyalty. Saul momentarily repents but continues his pursuit later. Abigail prevents David from slaughtering Nabal's household. When Nabal dies, David marries Abigail. David sneaks into Saul's camp at night, takes his spear, and spares him once more. Desperate, David offers his service to Achish, the Philistine king. The Philistines prepare for war with Israel but send David away, fearing betrayal. David's camp is raided, but he pursues and recovers his family and possessions. Saul and Jonathan fall in battle against the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. David writes a lament for Saul and Jonathan, mourning their deaths. David is anointed king of Judah, but Saul's son Ish-bosheth rules Israel. David's forces battle Saul's remaining supporters. Ish-bosheth is assassinated, clearing the way for David's reign. David is crowned king over all Israel at Hebron. David takes the stronghold of Zion, making Jerusalem his capital. David retrieves the Ark of the Covenant, dancing before the Lord. God makes a covenant with David, promising his throne will last forever. David defeats Israel's enemies, bringing prosperity and peace. David commits adultery with Bathsheba and has her husband Uriah killed. The prophet Nathan exposes David's sin, and David repents. David fasts, but the child dies. Later, Solomon is born. David's son Amnon violates his half-sister Tamar. Absalom kills Amnon and flees. Absalom declares himself king, forcing David to flee. David's forces defeat Absalom, who dies caught in a tree. David mourns Absalom bitterly despite his betrayal. David ensures Solomon is ready to rule. David dies peacefully, remembered as Israel's greatest king.